What shall we call this podcast, Brett?
Well, we can call it the Poetry Podcast.
This is a poetry podcast. Shall I just pick one at random, do you think? Or
I
should
think that pick one at random.
a random poem?
Yeah,
Leave it up to fate, destiny.
yeah.
Okay.
I think there's some divine intervention.
Well, we got this one. Are you ready?
Okay.
It's quite a long one, 3 pages.
All right.
But have a listen.
Hit me with it.
Now, just some background on this poem.
Yeah.
It's called Freeze Up Moon. While I was in America, we were talking about this earlier actually. While I was in America, I read this astrology book, but it was a Native American astrology book. So they were talking about my particular sign, and they do it by moon signs. My particular sign was called the freeze up moon, which apparently means that you tend to wait until everything bottles up, and then you kind of you sort of let everything build up to a point. You often procrastinate, and then you build up to a point, and then you do everything all at once, kind of thing,
Like
in
you
one big burst of energy.
vomit it out.
And it's the same probably with your emotions as well. Like things tend to bottle up, and then you kind of have a bit of an explosion.
Catharsis
Bit like,
experience.
yeah. It's called Freeze Up Moon. Supposedly that was the sign that I was born under.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I was born and under a freeze up moon.
Whoa.
Could be a bane, could be a boon. I wait till things are all built up, and then I do them all at once. I wait till chaos shows his face, then I go and win the race. I wait till I'm juggling 5 at a time, then I go and blow their minds. I wait till I'm trodden into the ground, and then I turn it all around. But why do I have to wait so long? Can't I sing a different song? Help me, help me, help me, please. Can't these things be done with a little more ease? Every time without redress I seem to go through this process. Is it just a habit of mine? Can it all be changed in time? Why do I do it again and again? When will it finish? When will it end? Sometimes I feel like Pinocchio. If I lie to myself, my heart grows cold. I start feeling aches and pains, the sensation of being wrapped in chains. I paint myself in a really tight spot. Then I go and blow the lot. It's like a form of tantric sex, but like I'm under a mysterious hex. I don't think I can shake it out. It seems I have to scream and shout. It's just the pain I have to bear. Will it ever disappear? Will I ever be set free, or am I chained for eternity? Like Prometheus on Mount Ida, a giant eagle picking at his liver. Every day it comes right back so it can have another crack. Despite all the good I've done, I'm getting shriveled by the sun. God just seems to chew us up until the point where we erupt and spew our lava rage around, splaying bodies on the ground. It seems a world of dog eat dog, getting whipped and being flogged. Our parents say it's nice out there, then they fill us full of fear. But where's the love? Where? Instead, I'm always crying tears. I want to be sick and throw it out, but then I'm back for another bout. It seems it's always fight or flight, survival right on through the night. I hate this wretched city life. Let me go and fly a kite. How did I end up here? A little crumpled ball of fear. There's still a rumble in my gut. There's still some more to be let out. I'm made to feel like I am wrong for singing loudly my own song. People don't want to see their self, so I'm put back on a shelf. They stick me in a monkey zoo and pull a silly face. Go, go. They think because I'm childlike I need to be monitored through the night. Because I have some dreams and hopes, they think that I'm smoking dope. They think it's wrong to be alive, and so they get their steely knives and stab me one more time until I cannot make things rhyme. If Christ was God's only son, why did he waste him all on us? I tell you, God must be full of love to send his son from up above. Otherwise, he's completely nuts. If you want some proof, just look at us.
Wow.
It's quite a heavy poem.
It's quite
I wrote
powerful.
that supposedly in July 2002, which is 13 years ago. So I'd just like to say those sentiments don't always echo what I feel in this moment. And I think the poem is, in parts, quite bad. The rhyming scheme is quite bad, but I do still like a lot of the imagery and some of the, some of what it discusses is quite poignant, I find, looking back on it, because it's funny, like I don't really like it that much, but at the same time there's a lot there that I do like.
What were you doing at the time that triggered you into writing that, or?
Well, I think that I'd come back from America and was meditating in the mountains in America, and I'd got disillusioned with the whole process over there and decided to come back home, and I decided that I was going to pursue acting. And so I was living at home and finding it difficult living at home, because at that age you sort of want your independence, and so I think there's a bit of that sort of angst there of needing independence but not really having. I'd been someone who'd kind of going to America, I'd really followed my heart, and it had ended in a huge disappointment, I guess, because I felt like it hadn't lived up to my expectations, I suppose. And when I came back, I didn't quite know where to go from there,
Yeah.
And so this was a poem that I wrote, but it's
like you come back down to earth in a way. You've been kind of meditating, and you've been in this like community
for a long
of
time,
people where everyone's kind of supporting your process and that you're going through, and then suddenly you come back to, I suppose you'd call it reality, or back to the real world.
Yeah.
And that's probably like falling from a cliff in a way, perhaps, I don't know.
Yeah,
that might have felt.
Yeah, there was that, but I also left because I was disillusioned with what was happening over there.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And so I came back to New Zealand. I was a bit disillusioned with everything, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know where to begin, but I decided that I was going to do acting.
No, I mean, I can totally relate to that, and it's I think that's a really powerful poem, and it's channeling that kind of energy into, I guess, something creative or something useful. That's
well, it talks about the freeze up moon, but in some ways it was a cathartic poem in writing it. Like I was airing feelings at the time, so there's that element as well. So it's not only the title of the poem, I'm talking about that freeze up moon that I was talking about before, but also the fact that the poem is like a catharsis for me. It's like
I felt a catharsis just listening to that, actually.
You did?
It was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I write,
particularly the way that you read it as well,
Thank you. Yeah. Sometimes when I write, it's like I feel this need to write, and I just start writing, and somehow by starting writing, it sort of helps me work out whatever this physical feeling in my gut is, and then at the end of writing, I feel like a catharsis has happened, or that I've managed to somehow sort out the chaos that's in my mind and kind of channel it into a poem, and somehow at the end you come out with some sort of fresh perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's so visceral. It's like, wow.
It is quite visceral, yeah. The whole Prometheus on Mount Ida having his...
what is that, Mount Ida?
Well, Prometheus was...
Greek mythology we're talking.
Yeah, it's Greek mythology. Was it Roman mythology? I can't remember now. I think it was Roman because it's Prometheus. But Prometheus was the first man, wasn't he? And he played with fire. I can't remember the exact story, but he somehow committed angered Zeus. I think Zeus was Prometheus's father actually, but he angered Zeus, and he was doomed to be tied on Mount Ida, and have his liver picked at all day by vultures, and then the next day it would grow back, and the vultures would come and pick at it again. So it's quite a sort of I guess it's that whole kind of survival, fight or flight kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this was sort of like this was the version of hell for the Romans or whatever. So that's what that image is about. Like Prometheus on Mount Ida, a giant eagle picking at his liver. Every day it comes right back so it can have another crack. Sort of like being, I guess it was more like this feeling of being constantly shut down or put down.
Yeah.
Or
it's going into that deep, dark kind of pit of emotions that we don't normally talk about, and that people feel, and I like it.
And you're stuck and you can't sort of climb out, and you can't sort of push your way out, and so.
Oh boy, yeah, I can relate.
Yeah.
Shall we? How about I pick one? Oh, I'll just choose one at random.
You've had enough of that one.
Well, we've kind of.
Did you like the stab it with their steely knives? I stole that straight from Hotel California.
Did you?
Yeah.
Let me. How about I just pick one and I can read it, and then we can.
At random.
Too. Yeah, just the same thing.
From the summer book. All right then.
Okay, In the Midst. It's a shorter one. This is one you wrote, 2002. In the midst of chaos, in the midst of whirling thoughts and whirling sounds, in the midst of sadness, frustration, depression, in the midst of anger and hatred, in the midst of tiredness and physical discomfort, in the midst of fear of past and future, in the midst of despair, even in the midst of the greatest outer turmoil, there is and always has been the opportunity to choose for something different, to choose for the truth of who you are, to choose for peace, stillness and tranquility, to choose to watch and not be part of it, to choose to observe without judgment, to choose for freedom, to choose. Ooh.
Boom. That's almost like
it's like we've come full circle, isn't it?
It is, moving on from the last one.
Isn't that interesting?
In the midst of the freeze-up moon, well, in the midst of all the chaos. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that one. It's quite empowering.
Yeah.
It's moving on from, feeling all these to actually having a choice around that.
Yeah.
And
and it's going back to what we were talking about before about Jean-Paul Sartre and the existentialist theory of being a loche or a salo or an egalitère. So the loche, for those listeners out there, the loche were people who refused to choose. He said we had basically three choices. You could either refuse to choose, which means that your choices were made by other people, or you could be a salo, which was a bastard, and choose for other people, make choices for other people, while probably neglecting your own, force other people to make choices, or an egalitère, and the egaliteurs were those who were choosing for the good of humanity in each moment. And the difference between us and objects was that an object doesn't have a choice, so objects merely exist, whereas because we are humans, we have choice, which means we not only exist, but we become. By choosing, we become, whereas objects merely exist, and that's what makes us different from objects. Whereas if you're a loche and you refuse to choose, then you are basically giving away your right to choose, so you're becoming like an object. But this poem is actually more about that egalitère, I guess, or choosing for the good of humanity, or choosing not even that. There was a phrase actually when I was in America, because the technique I did in America was called ascending, and we were told that you choose an ascension attitude. So, and it's meant to be a pure thought that sort of directs you back to your true self, or back to your heart, or whatever you like. And so whenever you notice these whirling thoughts or these limiting behavior patterns or that kind of thing, you choose an ascension attitude which directs you back to your heart, and then you sort of let go, and that sort of puts you on a new train of thought maybe, or it might kind of...
Do you still use that?
I do.
Techniques?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I remember, yeah. Yes and no. Yeah, I've got other techniques.
Do you find them helpful?
I've always found them helpful. They're something for me. They've been like a go-to. They're like a go-to whenever I'm really down in the dumps, and whenever I get to rock bottom. It's always something that comes back to me, and it's always something that helps me get out of the mire, kind of thing. And I guess that's what that poem is about. In the midst of even the greatest outer turmoil, there is always a chance to choose. I can choose for that, or choose for the ascendant, the absolute, the self, whatever you like to call that huge creative force that's within and without and through everything.
Oh, that's cool. What else have we got here? We've got some.
Well, that's the spring book. We should probably stick with summer since it is summer.
Right.
You wanna? Shall I pick another one?
You pick one.
Okay, this one's quite heavy.
Okay.
Actually, I don't.
Too heavy?
Yeah. Well, it's just for the sake of protecting certain people. I don't really want to read that one.
Cool.
So we'll pick another one. That's the same one that I read before. Well,
this one, old man.
No, I think I'll go for this one actually.
Okay.
On judging a lettuce by its marketing campaign. Fancy lettuce, schmancy lettuce. Thank you. You want to offer some thoughts about that one?
Is that it?
That's it. Yeah.
Wow.
Short but poignant.
Okay,
The title is On Judging a Lettuce by its Marketing Campaign. Fancy lettuce, schmancy lettuce. Do you know what a fancy lettuce is?
Well, it's got little frilly bits around the outside, isn't it? Really, that's the only.
Yeah. Well, I'd go and buy these fancy lettuces. There's a lot more to this one.
Obviously, there is. Yeah. There's a huge backstory behind this one.
Well, for anyone who's bought a fancy lettuce, you find that they're all frilly on the top, but there's really not much substance to them at all. You can only use them once, and then
they look very pretty.
They look very pretty on the outside, on the top. But you take them home, you take the top off, and you get like one sandwich out of it, and then the rest is just mush.
Yeah.
And it's kind of not very usable. So that's what this particular campaign was, this particular poem was about, but it's not just about that, of course.
I remember when fancy lettuces came out too.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, this is like got a nice like plasticky bit around the outside, and
it looks so pretty.
It looks as though there's
probably genetically
water,
engineered though.
Wow, there's water sprinkled on the top that makes it. It's got a nice colour to it. Looks, Yeah. But you're right though. I mean, how much actually was that lettuce actually? Did it actually have? Was it better for you? Did it taste better? I mean... Well,
it looks good, but it's quite watery, and some of the time, there's not much nutrients in it, I don't think. I think it probably is, I'm not sure if it's genetically engineered, but I imagine it probably is. But it's also...
Well, we don't really know, but yeah.
It's also about how the difference between the face that we... that outer face and sort of, it's that whole, also it's sort of this cynicism about advertising and consumerism and just the difference between what people say and what you get, and I don't know. It's not just doesn't just apply to lettuces.
No,
And
well,
it's
it's everything,
also applies
isn't
to people as well, perhaps, because
Yeah.
people who go around, you know, what do you call it?
it? Flash.
Yeah, well, flashing their own. Well, you know, kind of, to want of a better word, wanking off about themselves. Often, if you get in deeper in, you find that it's all just show, and that the fancy lettuce that they're pretending to be is actually just a schmancy lettuce. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any
Cool.
thoughts on that, Brett?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much covered it on that one, actually.
Would you like to pick one more?
Okay, I think
Shall we
one
make
more.
this the last one?
I think the last one, yeah. That seems good. Let me
Well,
just-
I'll read it though, but just because I know these poems, so it might be a little bit easier for me to read them.
Sure, I'll just pick one at complete random. Oh, it's the same one again.
Oh yeah, pick again. Is there another one
Isn't
on
that
that?
funny?
Was there another one on the?
Here we go.
Not
Wow, this
that
is
one.
a long one. Too long?
That was the
One.
the
Let's
one
go
that
with one.
Oh yeah. Okay, here we go. I wrote this in 1998, so
Wow,
this is one
it's
of
an
my
oldie.
very early poems.
Oldie but a goodie.
Yeah. 1. Star cascade, run your fingers through my soul. We are one, you and I. We are the one. Waterfall of birds, fill my heart with your laughter. We are one, you and I. We are the one. Milkshake sky, let me drink from your fountain. We are the one, you and I. We are one. And yes, be happy now. And yes, be happy now. Safe in the knowledge that all is one.
Nice.
Yeah, that one.
No, you wrote that one before you went to.
Yeah, but I was still discovering meditation at that stage.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these have a kind of, I guess, lack of a better word, spiritual kind of flavour to them.
Yeah, well, I'd been ascending for 4 years before I went over to America. So
Yeah.
ascension gradually became
big part of-
a big part of my life. And so this was one of the things that happens when you start ascending is everything becomes a bit more rich, and so like your sensory perception becomes a bit more heightened, and so you start to see more depth in colours, for example, and more sense of a kind of communion with nature. And so I would look at the sky and it would be this amazing kind of, like I say, like a milkshake or something like that. I mean, it's not the greatest image, or I'd look at this flock of birds that was flying, you know, how they fly in flocks, and that there's this tandem, and then they just kind of went come crashing down, and they move up. It was like a waterfall. What's the other image there? Star cascade. So looking up at the sky, and there'd be this. It would be like you'd see this. The stars were like a waterfall of stars kind of thing. So run your fingers through my soul. It felt like actually I was connecting both on a heart level and an inner level with this nature. So. And becoming one, like I say, with it. So let me drink from your fountain. The sky, by looking at the sky, it actually filled me up. It was like sort of draining it was like drinking up when you're thirsty kind of thing. It was like, that's how it felt, because you sort of began to have this amazing connection with nature. Fill my heart with your laughter, waterfall of birds. So their sounds, the chirping of these birds was like laughter. It kind of tickled my soul kind of thing, because you felt this kind of sense of oneness with nature when I was ascending.
Sounds very kind of trippy.
Yeah, it is almost like taking drugs, I suppose. Not that I've done any drugs, but from what I've heard
Oh,
from
neither.
people have described it. But apparently, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
That seems like a good place to
To call it a day,
leave it.
our first podcast.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me.
No problem.